guys? D here at FTL Nerd Talk. I got a cool guy hanging out with me this time. I got Anton Sixx of Cheesy Controller. Anton, welcome, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Going all right. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got TV shows. No, not this time. Not this show. We got video games. We got
And
anime.
yeah, anime's TV.
Oh, is it? Is it? Yeah, I guess I guess it is. Yeah. Wow. I just woke up, so there's that. But it's Saturday. It is August 13th. We're talking about a lot of nerdy stuff, man. Like Anton is also from the ATL. He hangs out here in the ATL area. And he's a big gamer. He's the video game correspondent that I go to to fulfill all my gaming whims because you guys know me. I'm not I know video games, but since the PS3, I have not been as endowed in video games as say the average uh everyday gamer. So Anton is here to fulfill that gaming desire that so many of you are always talking about. And I just want to talk about some games, man. So Anton, what's first on the docket to talk about gaming wise?
Well, the first thing that I have gaming wise is I didn't want to come back with Monster Hunter, so I might hold the Monster Hunter till later because we just got a big update. But the first thing I wanted
That
to
is your
talk,
go-to, right?
yeah, I mean, I Monster Hunter. The reason I can't play Monster Hunter all the time is because I'd have no time. Like Monster Hunter is an MMO like time sink, and I've only been able to play one day since the new update dropped, but even in that time, that was like 6 hunts, which at like 20 minutes a hunt, yeah,
All right, that is time consuming. Like you really get lost in that game. It's a big
yeah,
sandbox kind of game too. Yeah.
yeah, and they just keep adding systems and they keep adding, like, they added augmentation, which was like a big deal in Monster Hunter Iceborne, now in Sunbreak, so that's just like a rabbit hole you could infinitely fall down because it's all RNG based. But the thing I wanted to talk about, and we talked about it a little earlier in the week, was Evo 2022 happened this past weekend. And so for me, esports isn't something that I follow closely. Like, there are certain games that I play that I'll watch. And for me, this being the first Evo since 2019, I remember 29, like probably starting in 2016, watching Evo every summer and just really getting excited about watching the high level play that happens at Evo. And this year was really interesting because I'm a big fan of Skullgirls. Like, that's my go-to fighting game. And Skullgirls has been out for 10 years, and I actually remember 10 years ago it was my senior trip in high school where Skullgirls came out, and I had it downloaded to one of my friend's PS3s, and I remember playing it 10 years ago, and it's just one of those go-to games. Like, it's been on Vita, it's been on Switch, and so like it's one of those, like, I I technically have it on every platform. I'm not sure it's out on Xbox yet, but I don't really go to Xbox for fighting games, or like Xbox is for very particular things. And
Okay.
so, but yeah, I have,
Old game came out in 2012.
yeah, it came out
Yeesh.
originally as Skullgirls, and then they added some characters, or they did like a overall refresh of the game, which was Skullgirls Encore, and then it became
Okay.
Skullgirls Second Encore when they added the first, or worked their way through the first set of DLC characters. And now, like, Skullgirls Second Encore is the base game, and they
Second encore.
just did a
Go Girls Mobile.
Skullgirls Mobile seems to be the way that they fund themselves, because Skullgirls is max $30. I think the most you can spend on Skullgirls that like supports the developers like as a fighting game on PC or console is $50, if that. Because a few years ago they started their DLC season pass, the first one that was like actually a paid thing, and that has given us two characters. One character is an alpha, and then they announced the final character at Evo. So, and then
Was it
this,
hyped? Did a lot of fans get into it when that character was announced?
yeah, I mean, it's Marie, who is the Skull Girl. She played like the final boss in almost everybody's campaign in the game. So she's been a character that's been in the game for a really long time. Like, one of the hardest challenges in the game is to fight her at 300%. So she has 300% more health and does 300% more damage. So
Jeez.
that's like the hardest challenge in the game. But now they're finally adding her as a playable character. So up until now, they like the first DLC character was Annie of the Stars, who seemed to be like she might have been mentioned here or there in the story, but now she's kind of like a now she's like a full character fleshed out by herself. And then Umbrella, so Marie's one of the only characters that was in the game that wasn't playable outside of like background characters and stuff like that. But yeah, this was Skullgirl's first year at Evo main stage, so that was like a really big deal for the community. Like 10 years in the making of like this game being out, this game having like doing crowdfunding for characters, like people playing the game, people enjoying the game. And this studio, they made this game and they made Indivisible, which was like a 2D kind of like beat 'em up RPG kind of, but it just didn't capture the same magic as Skullgirls. And it's good to see that they've come back to Skullgirls after doing Indivisible and really like take a lot of the learnings and a lot of the growth that came with making that game and like put it back into their original game, which is my like it's in my pantheon of games. Like, it's probably my favorite fighting game ever.
I'm watching the trailer, the Marie trailer. They're hyped up the fact that it's been around for 10 years. Also in the trailer,
Right.
it's like been a 10-year coming to bring out Marie.
So it's really just for fans. I know it's been a big moment. So, and then so there's a commentator, Purple Sharpie, that I'm not sure if you're aware of her, but she's somebody that I've been following on Twitter for years. And like
Okay.
anytime Skullgirls goes on sale, she like posts about it. She's always her TikTok is almost entirely like jokes about Skullgirls, and so for her as a commentator, it was really great to see her be able to commentate the top 8 and be on like Evo's main channel. It's like somebody in the community that has risen through the ranks, has like commentated other big tournaments, and is Evo is the top of the mountain. It's like commentating over the Super Bowl, but for fighting games. So it's
Is
been,
that's the equivalence that you put it at? Is there?
yeah, definitely, because
All
it
right.
is,
Right on.
well,
I'm just learning. I'm just listening to you. Like, you know the culture, you know the fan base. So, like, I'm really interested in seeing, like, like how you guys like put these different types of games in, like, like the world of esports. Because, like, to me, even though it's $1 billion industry, it's still fairly like unknown to me. So
right. And I mean, that's the thing. And I feel like Evo is one of the best things to show people who aren't into esports to help them get it, because there are moments like my YouTube recommended right now is full of like highlights from Evo, like grand finals matches and stuff like that. And so they basically pulled, it was Melty Blood, it was Skullgirls, it was Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, it was Guilty Gear, Dragon Ball Fighters, Street Fighter 5, Mortal Kombat, and I think that might be it. It might have been 9 games, but just having the anybody who feels competitive enough, because it was an international tournament. It wasn't like specifically the best players in the US. It wasn't specific because there was like a lot of Pakistani representation in the Tekken top
Okay.
8 and like Japanese representation in the Street Fighter top 8. And so it was really an international kind of just the best of the best because where we started watching was Friday, and Friday was kind of the initial push of getting some of the games that weren't didn't have their top 8 until Sunday. It was getting people through pools, getting your top 64s, working your way all the way to your top 8. So and then it kind of becomes like a convention around that because there's like fighting game. There are people there that are just there to watch. There are people there that are there to cosplay. There are people there that are, you know, just there to play games and have fun. So, and the good thing about
Found a
it,
video. I found a video of her talking to Triple KO about Skullgirls. I found like her Twitter page where she's talking about it. She does a lot of work. This the purple Sharpie.
yeah,
Been
she's
on for a while
great.
apparently.
She's awesome. Like, I actually during the Skullgirls top 8 because Sonic Fox, who is like he's got several Evo championships under his belt, and like his thing is he's a gay black furry who is the best in the world at fighting games. And so like
See
seeing
that?
him
That's what his Twitter tag says. Yeah,
and
that's funny.
so having Sonic Fox win the Skullgirls top 8 and having Sharpie commentating the Skullgirls top 8, his first year at Evo, it was a really great, you know, just kind of magical thing to see. You know, because it was supposed to happen in 2020, then Evo 2020 was canceled. There wasn't an Evo 2021, and then PlayStation during the pandemic bought Evo, and so now this year's Evo, while there were PlayStation ads and they were announced like sponsored by Sony products and stuff like that,
Right?
it it didn't feel like they were taken over. Like Evo still felt like Evo, if not better in a lot of ways. So,
You think it's gonna be that way in the future? Like it's gonna continue to be like Evo, just like Sony sponsored.
well, I mean, PlayStation completely owns the event now because they went through. There was a lot of toxicity in the community. There was a lot of stuff
Okay.
going on with like people who were in charge of Evo. That's why 2020 and 2021 there wasn't an Evo, is because a lot of like one of the guys who was basically like the owner of Skullgirls, he had a lot of controversy around him about being toxic in the workplace towards female employees and like just being like really bad. So there were a lot of things going on in the FGC, like people of age being with people underage, like things like that going on, like, and so we kind of had a 2 year period of just like this isn't happening, and it seems like Sony's come in and cleaned a lot of that out. Like there were a lot of people that I listen to in the game space and follow on Twitter that were there, and there wasn't any like there would be things that you would see before that it was like I don't know about this, but like one thing like this was the most mask wearing event that I've seen probably since 2020. There wasn't anybody on camera, there wasn't anybody in the crowd like that you could visibly see just wasn't wearing a mask. The
Not wearing a
overwhelming
mask. I get
majority
you.
was just masked, and so that was like one thing of like Sony, and part of Sony buying it is Smash Bros pulled away from Evo because Smash Bros is one of the biggest games, one of the biggest draws to Evo, but also the Smash community has a lot of
Progressive
unsavoriness.
thinking people. Yeah.
Well, not
Like they're what?
there are jokes about that, like there are truth to the jokes that Smash players don't shower and stuff like that, and So there's a lot going on in the Smash community that you don't necessarily want associated with your community. And it wasn't PlayStation buying Evo and saying, "Hey, we're going to distance ourselves." It was Nintendo pulling Smash out because they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to have PlayStation showing the esports of a Nintendo game," you know?
Nintendo game. They're very particular about that. You know, they did like I know Nintendo is really particular about sharing the stage with other gaming companies. So yeah, that
Right.
would never
And I
happen.
mean, as far as Smash, even when Smash was played, because Smash has terrible online. That was a theme of this year's Evo. Is like almost all of the major games had rollback netcode, which is like what you want for an online fighting game. So like Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, that game got re-released for PS4 and PC recently, and well, within the last year, I'll say. And
Gotcha.
they said rollback netcode's coming in summer. To kick off Evo, the rollback netcode update was out, so now that game has an opportunity to continue to live, because that's something we saw with like Skullgirls, and I don't know if you've heard of them fighting herds. It's like a My Little Pony fighting game, but it's like really mechanically sound. So like games like that have had rollback netcode. Guilty Gear Strive launched with rollback netcode. Street Fighter 6, when that comes out, is going to have rollback netcode and crossplay day one. So
Oh wow, look at that the graphics on this. Wow, incredible. I was watching the graphics of Skullgirls also. It has more of a to me, it has more of like a Mugen kind of look to it, as opposed to like other traditional kind of fighting games. It seems like the fighting is coordinated to like the character's movements, which is different than this fighting Hurts game. Like the mechanics and this was pretty interesting.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like the fighting community has really rallied around Skullgirls and them fighting herds because they're really mechanically sound games. They have rollback, so they have good online. The communities around them, like they have really high skill ceilings. Like,
I mean, it's My Little Pony. Like My Little Pony, the fan base is untouched when it comes to that community. Yeah.
well, yeah, I'm not sure it's officially. I know there was something around My Little Pony officially not wanting to be associated with the game or something. So,
Okay.
but it definitely is that aesthetic, but it definitely is a really good fighting game. Like
Well, like
that's
I'm sure like the fan base of My Little Pony are big fans of this game,
yeah,
right? It had
definitely.
like the same kind of look to it, or like at least like at most the furry community are big proprietors of this game.
Yeah. I mean, one of
I'm
the things
I'm
just
looking at the
talking.
mechanics. The mechanics is it's insane. It really is insane. Like it's very it's in my honest opinion, I feel like it's more fluid than like the Skull Girls game I was just watching. Like this looks very fluid.
Yeah, it's a lot more fast paced and it does the animations do transition. Like but Skullgirls is really like I feel like Skullgirls is easier to read while playing. Like understanding what's going on and like what your options are at any given time over the pony game,
Okay.
which is just kind of in the Discord. One of our FGC players who like actually puts a lot of the people in our server onto smaller fighting game events. He refers to it as a pony game, and so if I ever
I'm watching
just say the pony game, it's them fighting herds.
them fighting hers. Gotcha. I'm watching Second Encore in motion right now, and this is a lot more fluid than like say like the first Cold Girls game that I was watching. This is wow. Like no, this is I can see the transition from before. They even got like graphics when the character is defeated. That's wow. That's interesting. Okay, yeah. The second Encore is definitely a lot more fluid, paced game instead of like the original Skullgirls. So I see why you're still a part of it
Yeah,
for sure. It has like an old school vintage kind of feel to it, like
yeah,
the old school 2D side scrollers. Like not per se like the it's more like SNK. Yeah, Capcom versus SNK
yeah.
is the vibe I get from this.
It,
This is nice.
a lot of people when they first see it, it's like Marvel versus Capcom because it's you can have
Mm-hmm.
1v1 or each player has the option of 1, 2, or 3 characters. So if you have 3 characters, you have 2 assists, but all your characters have smaller health bars, and so can be knocked out to like remove your assists or whatever. One player, you just have 1 significant health bar, but no assists. Most of my teams are 2 players. I'll use Valentine and Eliza, and that
Okay.
gives you 1 assist. And the cool thing about the assist is it's not just preset moves. They have 2 preset moves, but then you have the option of any input you want. So if there's a move that you have a character that you want to use their quarter circle punch, you can say assist set your assist move to be that quarter circle punch.
Is there supposed to be like a steampunk noir aesthetic to this? Is that supposed to be like the theme to this story?
It has a lot of different themes. That's one thing about the cast of characters and how unique and how interesting they all are because everybody comes from like relatively disparate backgrounds, all trying
Okay.
to get the Skull Heart to become the Skull Girl. But then they added Beowulf and Big Band, both of which who are males, and so therefore can't become the Skull Girl. So the lore is deep when it comes to Skullgirls.
It seems like it started out with like a lot of fan service, but they wanted to switch up that theme for a bit.
Well, I mean, there's still the fan service. It's like it seems they want to juxtapose like because it's a serious fighting game. It's mechanically
Yeah,
sound. It's
it really is good.
but also they have like if a character gets hit and their skirt goes up, you can see their panties, and so there's still that going on with it. But
Gotcha.
at the end of the day, that's something that will draw in audience the same way them fighting herds will draw in the My Little Pony fan base. But and some of those people will become fighting game players because of that game, and then because like Sonic Fox is a furry, and so and he's
Yeah,
won Dragon Ball
he's very
Fighters.
proud about it. He's very he got a lot of photographs. Like I think he just took a new set of photographs. If you got to check out his Twitter page, he is very hardcore into the furry community.
Yeah, he's had different parts of his fursuit. Like he had gloves that like with blue fur for his hands, and he would play fighting games in certain tournaments with the hands on. Sometimes he'll have the head on, sometimes he'll have the tail. So a lot of times you'll see him in different parts of his fursuit, just
So it's the future,
competing and
man.
winning. That's the thing.
That's
Not,
the thing. You can't say like if he wins, you can't say anything about it. There you go.
right.
I did have a story I wanted to bring to your attention. This is one of those things that like I know you listen to my podcast sometimes, and those who are listening right now, they know I talk about these kind of like microtransactions and bundles and whatnot. The Resident Evil is getting a bundle that gives you 10 games for $30.
Oh yeah, I
I
did see that.
You've heard about this, right?
Yeah. I have
It's
most of the Resident Evil games, so it's not particularly for me, but just the deal and the games you get out of it. Because there are some notable omissions, but
it's Resident Evil 0 through 7 along with Revelations.
1 and 2, right?
1, 2, 2 remake, 3 remake, 4, 5 gold edition, 6, 7, Resident Evil Revelations, Revelations 2
Yeah,
deluxe edition.
okay. So for me, Resident Evil 5 holds a special place in my heart. And because for me on PS3, it was one of the first games I played online co op. And so for me, it's kind of one of those games that if somebody wants to play Resident Evil 5 co op, I'll go and play some Resident Evil 5 co op to this day.
That was the go. Like that was like everyone's like main go to when it first came out with that 5 co-op. It was like the first time you can do that.
And then you said it comes with 7, right? And so is it Is this bundle for PC or for PlayStation?
See, no, I didn't look at that part. That's the part I gotta look at. It's for PC. For
Okay,
PC
most of
gaming.
these bundles are for PC, but there have been a few occasions where like Humble Bundle or something will have
That's what it is.
PlayStation
That's
codes.
exactly who it is. It's Humble Bundle. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Humble Bundle has had PlayStation bundles before, and those have been insane. Like for $30, I got like 50 games or something like that, and I've just so every time Humble does a PlayStation bundle, I always take note. So I had to make sure that this wasn't one of those because even though I have most of these games, I'd probably still,
You
get
gotta
it
get
and
on it.
then give out the codes, like I have cuz I have Resident Evil 1, both the remake and the director's cut on PlayStation. I have Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake. Resident Evil 4 I don't have yet, but I'm going to wait for the remake of that next year to get into that one. Resident Evil 5 I have the PS4 port. Resident Evil 6 I don't have, but Resident Evil fans know why I don't have Sixx. Resident
They
Evil.
are they are called they have a name for it. Called like the Decade of Horror. Comes out August 24th, for those who are wondering.
Okay. So yeah, that's coming up soon.
Yeah,
It's a really good bundle of games. If just for 2 remake, 7 and 5 for co-op. I mean, that's a solid bundle of games, and for 30
agreed.
bucks,
Because the value is 275 for all these games.
yeah, and that's buying them a la carte. And I know a lot of people probably have one of these games. I think Humble gives you the ability to gift any of the ones you already have.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I think I have Resident Evil 5 on Steam. And so if I have Resident Evil 5, I could gift somebody a copy of Resident Evil 5 on Steam.
Let, let me ask you this. Like, you know how like when we see certain like memes and TV shows like being gift or like GIFed or memed when they come out like on Netflix or Hulu, whatever. Like
Yeah.
right now, Megamind is on everyone's lips. I'm not sure where Megamind is being aired right now, but I know everyone's talking about Megamind. I've been seeing gifs and memes about Megamind everywhere. Does that happen with these bundles? Like when a game is bundled and people start playing, like do you start seeing like a tons of memes about this in the gaming community?
Not particularly because that's kind of like a thing with a lot of the audience of these humble bundles and stuff is that a lot of these people like with me, I have 800 PlayStation games.
Okay,
So if I get a bundle of 20 more, I may play and think about one of them, but it's not the same way like I think PlayStation Plus is a better comparison with this, where if a game
gotcha.
comes to PlayStation Plus and a lot of people are talking about that game because everybody who has PlayStation Plus is getting that game for free. I see a lot more engagement with that one game, and you'll see a lot more content about that one game because the entire community just has
Just
access
playing
to
it.
it. But where these
I get you.
bundles, like if you have 800 games, you add 20 more and maybe play one, that's not strong enough of a connection to like bring back up. Like, of course, every once in a while, somebody's going to talk about Chris Redfield punching a boulder or uh, somebody becoming a Jill sandwich. Like, those things will come up every now. Ladies and
People
gentlemen,
still say that?
yeah, I mean, it comes up every once in a while. Like Resident Evil is
Hilarious.
always like in one way or another always in the zeitgeist. So
That's
and
hilarious.
and
I didn't know people still say like Jill sandwich. Like, I mean, I am for one would love to be a part of a Jill Valentine sandwich, but just I didn't know people were still coining that phrase. That's hilarious as hell.
yeah.
Oh
So,
God.
but that's not like Resident Evil does that
Oh,
by getting itself back into the zeitgeist. Like they have a Netflix show. We have Resident Evil 4
right.
remake coming out next year. if you are a fan of Resident Evil and you just want something with the title Resident Evil on it and you haven't consumed any of the games, any of the movies, any of the TV shows, any of the, because there's stuff constantly coming out. I think Resident Evil Reverse is still like somewhere in the ether. Like it might have a release date that I probably don't believe, but like you don't have to go far to get Resident Evil. So I don't think this bundle is gonna. You might see a couple memes here or there from the people who are like horror game fans, or see somebody complete their collection. But yeah, it's not. I don't think that that's a powerful enough thing to.
Humble bundles.
Yeah,
Gotcha. I get you. Like I did listen. I again listened to your podcast. You guys talked about the new Resident Evil TV show and how it's not well received with the audiences. So,
well, I mean,
uh,
I'd say more than 60% of Resident Evil content does not please the Resident Evil audience.
I,
So,
I mean, you can say that about any kind of like property that turned like into a television or movie. I think Uncharted did not do well with the audiences. Halo, people are pissed that Master Chief's face is being seen for most of the show. So yeah, no, I
I
get it.
didn't hate the Uncharted movie. I went and saw it in theaters. I had the option of
Did you?
seeing the Uncharted movie or the Batman in theaters, and I went and
Did you
saw the
choose wrong?
Uncharted movie. Yeah,
You chose wrong.
yeah, I chose wrong.
I got you.
I mean,
I'm
but
sorry. Like
at the
it's
same time,
fine.
I ended up being able to see the Batman sooner on HBO Max than I would have been able to see the Uncharted movie on Netflix. So you
On
know,
Netflix. You gotta pick your battles then, right?
I mean, the thing was like I'm a gamer, you know, like I'm a play. People know me as like the PlayStation guy. Like I gotta go see the Uncharted movie.
You got
It's part of the
gotta
brand,
represent. You gotta represent. No, I feel you, man.
right?
I
Like
went to the theater. We went to Atlantic Station. I think you know where Atlantic Station is in Atlanta,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we went to go see the Batman movie. And my wife was watching the monitor up below, like with the ticket cutter in front of us, and she said, "What the hell's?" She said like, "I guess you guys are here for Uncharted." My wife said, "What the hell's an Uncharted?" and the
Right,
person remembered was like, "Yeah, exactly. What is that? I don't know." Like, no, we're here for the Batman. Like, so like
right.
that was a good
Batman's part of
funny
your
experience.
brand, so you had to go see Batman. Uncharted is part of my
Had to.
brand, so I had to go see Uncharted.
So we're both representing. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And you know, the
I want.
Uncharted movie, it wasn't great by any stretch, but it did have some cool moments. It had like the Tom Holland meeting Nolan North and like having both portrayals of Nathan Drake on the screen at the same time. It was cool.
They had Nolan in the film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nolan, like, that's one of the Easter eggs. Like, Tom Holland, after falling out of the plane, like, after that scene from Uncharted 3, he washes up on a beach and, like, is walking up, and Nolan North is just sitting on the beach, gets up. He's like, look like you had a rough day, kid. And Tom Holland's like, yeah, I just fell out of a plane and got hit by a car. And Nolan North's like, yeah, that's happened to me before. And so it was a cool little Easter egg.
I know a lot of people. We're getting like way off track, but I know a lot of people are big fans of Nolan North from this game, from
Yeah,
uh
that's how.
from that. Like that's how you got like to know him. Also, for me, it was always Deadpool. It was like always like the voice of Deadpool. Like that was my go to for Nolan North was like him being the voice of Deadpool. Like I don't think anyone else can do like do justice to that voice. Even Reynolds. To be honest with you, but I think Nolan North really captures that character.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Nolan North is when you start to really. Nolan North and Troy Baker are a lot of your favorite characters from a lot of your favorite media. Mark Hamill is another example of just like you don't realize the like gravity voice actors because you don't know their faces. Like you know Mark
Right.
Hamill's face, but a lot of the things that you know Mark Hamill as his face for, like there are just as many things that you don't realize are Mark Hamill.
There you go. Absolutely correct. Like like even the people who watched the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the DC CW event, like Kevin Conroy played the Batman in like a very dark Batman universe. And like not many people would know who Kevin Conroy was unless they knew who Kevin Conroy was. So no, I hear you.
Isn't Kevin Conroy Batman in multiverses?
Yeah, he brings his voice back. He reprises the role of Batman. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
So yeah, that's. Have you gotten to play any multiverses? Like that's been one of the things lately. Like a game for you specifically, D
I
is
know.
it's
I
free to
know.
play.
I know.
Do you,
I gotta get a. Do you need a console to play that Backbone? That Backbone controller? Do you have a console to play that?
ah.
That's another question I wanted to ask you.
So the Backbone controller, I don't have one yet. I was actually, it's funny, right before you joined the call, I was watching a review of the PlayStation branded Backbone. I was looking at that and so I have like a controller clip mount. So it's for a PS4 controller where it clips around the controller and then like has a thing that my phone can slide into.
Put your phone inside of. I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have one of those and I've done remote playthrough that. The Backbone controller is good for mobile games with controller support, which is becoming more games as time goes on. Like I have an Apple Family membership plan that comes
You
with
know.
like Apple Arcade. So there are games on there that I've definitely hopped into and played with that controller. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just I don't have the actual Backbone thing itself. I do the same things you can do with the Backbone, but I just don't have the Backbone. Um,
So you would have had to have a console if you did use the Backbone. That's what you're telling me.
for PlayStation stuff. For Xbox stuff, they
Ooh.
have Xbox Cloud streaming. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can cloud stream any game that's on Game Pass. And they've promised at some point your entire Xbox library from wherever like will be compatible with cloud streaming because cloud streaming since they've introduced it, it's been one of the most successful ones because so many people have Game Pass. I know people games with touch controls, people will play entire games on their lunch breaks at work on their phone through
Yeah.
Xbox cloud streaming. And you're
I just
accessing a Series X chipset in the cloud. So it's like you're playing the best version just streamed to your phone.
and PlayStation Now doesn't have that kind of capability yet, or are they working on that?
Rest in peace, PlayStation Now. You'll be remembered.
Okay, what? I'm behind. All right. Well, that
PlayStation
shut me up.
PlayStation Now got bundled into PlayStation Plus. So PlayStation Plus went from just like the baseline level to they have Essential, which is a baseline level, Extra, which comes with like a digital catalog, and then Premium, which comes with the nerfed version of PlayStation Now. So like
Mm,
PlayStation Now as a service is not around, but the technology is still used in PlayStation Plus Premium. And so for me, I upgraded my PlayStation Plus to Premium when it came out, and I streamed a little bit of Azura's Wrath on PlayStation Now, and I streamed a little bit of Lost Planet 2. But as far as like a service that you could access on your phone, nah.
oh,
PlayStation Now's
boo.
gone. But you have a
That would get me back into it.
I'd say check out Xbox Cloud streaming because if you
Yeah.
were to get a backbone and do Xbox Cloud streaming, and you have like even a moderately decent Wi-Fi connection, because it's nothing crazy that you need for Xbox Cloud streaming. If you can stream a YouTube video, you can stream an Xbox game, and if you have the backbone, it's on the Xbox side, it removes a lot of the stops. For me, I'm just not personally an Xbox player.
Neither am I. So those of you who are listening, just so you know, that ain't gonna happen. But please continue.
Game Pass does have a lot of good stuff and a lot of good stuff coming. Like every single thing you saw at Xbox's E3 this year is coming to Game Pass, and there's a lot of stuff like Persona, and Stadia's not good at this. Like Xbox
I was at
is.
that. I had an article about that about how Google is letting some people launch cloud games directly from search results. Yeah.
I mean, and that's some. They've done different things like that with Stadia. It's not enough to save Stadia because at the end of the day, they wanted you to pay full price to stream games on Stadia,
Are
and
you insane?
Right.
Like, no.
So, like, you want to play Assassin's Creed from a few years ago. That game is $60. You'd have to pay $60 for a several-year-old Assassin's Creed game that might be
You're
on
insane.
Game Pass, which is $15 a month. So, you could pay $15 a month and have Xbox's Netflix of gaming, which does it includes a lot of the it includes all of the first party stuff, but it also includes a lot of third party day and date releases.
Dude,
So
that's robbery. No, thank you. That's no chance in hell I'm doing something. That sounds like I'm getting had. No, thank you.
I mean, if you're playing on Xbox or you're playing on PC or you're trying to stream games to your phone, it's honestly the best deal because you get a library of hundreds of games and like not everything's going to be for you, but $15 a month to have hundreds of access to hundreds of games, if even like two of those games, honestly one AAA game a month played on Game Pass more than pays for your subscription because you could pay $60 to play through the Halo campaign, or you could pay $15 and play through it in that month and be done. It's a really good service. It's just and that's the thing. So Persona's coming to it. Yakuza's on it. It's a lot of games that are like
I was just
known.
I was just gonna call out the games. I have the games in front of me right now. Ghost Recon Wildlands is available for cloud, console, and PC. Uh, Shenzhen is IO. It's on PC only. Turbo Golf Racing, cloud PC, and Xbox Series X. 2 Point Campus, cloud PC, console. Cooking Simulation, cloud, console, PC. Expedition Rome, PC. Off-World Trading Company, also PC. They got a few more of that company like Midnight Fight Express comes out August 23rd, and Immortality comes out
Right.
the 30th.
And they release a list like that every month of games.
So it's essentially like what Plus does, but like like more
So
exclusive games.
it's every first party Xbox title, period. So like if Xbox publishes and they bought Bethesda and they're about to buy Activision Blizzard. So
I heard about that. Yeah. How do you
yeah.
feel about that, by the way? I know
Uh
you talked about it on your show, but how do you feel about that? Like having it processed a bit now.
uh I mean, I'm to the point where when it first was announced, I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of people fighting this. It may or may not go through. Now I'm to the point where it's almost definitely going to go through. Like right now, PlayStation and Microsoft are arguing in a Brazilian court because there's like Brazilian regulators trying to step in and like investigate like the anti-competitiveness of this deal. But the thing is, there's a lot of consolidation going on in the games industry right now. Everybody's being
Yeah.
bought or sold or merged. And I mean, even the entertainment industry in general, because like Warner
Yeah.
Discovery.
That don't even get me started on that bullshit, but go ahead.
But yeah, so like some things merge and you love to see it, like, and it makes a lot of sense. And like, so when Xbox bought Bethesda, I was happy for, like, I'm not a Bethesda fan. Like, I didn't like Fallout, didn't like Elder Scrolls. Like, they're games that I've tried. I'm just not the biggest fan of like that type of game. Like, I have respect
I
for
I
it.
get I get Fallout, but Elder Scrolls, really, dude? No,
Yeah, no, it's not my bag. And like, but
you're a
some of the
Monster
things,
Hunter guy.
Monster Hunter is really
Oh,
different than
okay.
Elder
I knew
Scrolls.
you were gonna say that. I knew you were like, don't you dare compare those two games.
Well, I
Go
mean,
ahead, man.
there are closer analogies that you could like. The fact that Microsoft now owns Obsidian and Bethesda Game Studios. Fallout 76 2 wasn't a possibility for a stretch of time, but now Fallout 76 2 or whatever the next Obsidian Fallout game is a possibility. And while it's like Starfield looks like it's going to be amazing, and they wouldn't have had that kind of budget for Starfield if they weren't bought by Microsoft. And they wouldn't have had the kind of time that they're allowed to have to work on the game if they were not underneath Microsoft. So while
Starfield. This is that game that people are comparing to No Man's Sky, but like some people are saying that it's not like No Man's Sky, right?
it's not like it's like Fallout in space or like the Elder Scrolls in space. But there's a lot of
Uh, you, you sound so jaded while you say that shit. You sound so jaded while you're fucking like it's like those same two games, but in space. Like I got no interest. So like that
right.
doesn't
It's
like that
not for
doesn't
me.
hit your
Like I
radar.
might give it a try. Like I might pay my $15, get my Game Pass for that month, give it a go. Like spin the tires on it. But I just know me and my taste and sensibility in gaming, and that like there are people that I know when Fallout 4 came out took a week off of work and like
On it. Yeah.
yeah, and for those people, I'm super happy because this looks like the next generation version of that. And so you getting that with all the time, money, resources, like creativity, like of the team that is responsible for Skyrim, one of the biggest games of all time, Fallout 4,
I
one of
feel
the
you.
biggest games in that community ever, and just having more time, more money, more resources, more talent on the game, like for those people, it's awesome. It's like Final Fantasy 16 and me. Like Final Fantasy 16's not everybody's bag. Like not everybody is going to lose their mind about Final Fantasy 16 the way I lose my mind
But
about
you,
Final
on the
Fantasy.
other hand,
Me,
if you guys have listened to his podcast, he goes on and on about Final Fantasy. He's a big Final Fantasy fan for sure. And like in some of your co-hosts, they are not as big of a Final Fantasy fan as you are.
well, and I mean that's the thing. Like for me, Final Fantasy. So I like to interpret games as far as like the creatives behind the game. So like art directors,
Right.
creative directors, like uh producers, like different what the people behind the game then go on and do. And it's the team behind Final Fantasy XIV making Final Fantasy XVI, and the combat director behind Devil May Cry 5, which had amazing combat, doing the combat in Final Fantasy XVI. And it's Soken, the god, like Soken is the composer for Final Fantasy XIV, and they just dropped a trailer for Final Fantasy XIV patch 6.2, and the music in that trailer, I mean, the music in Final Fantasy XIV is just amazing.
Oh, they're always Final Fantasy holds no stops when it comes to music. Agreed.
Well,
Like their
so
music is always on par.
I don't want to mispronounce the composer for Final Fantasy because Soken is relatively new to it. Like he kind of got his start with Final Fantasy XIV. Nobu Uematsu, uh, yeah, Uematsu is the composer that, like, if you think Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy 13, if you think any of the Final Fantasy soundtracks that have been really great, you're thinking about him. But Soken and his band, the Primals, they're kind of like a new breed. They bring a lot more energy and a lot more because Uematsu's been doing composing for Final Fantasy for decades at this point. Soken is relatively fresh to the scene and is just an amazing composer, an amazing and I don't know if I gotta look up Alex's name, but there's a video game composer, Alex, who plays like covers and he's done interviews with Soken. So like Soken's a lot more of a modern has a lot more modern sensibilities as far as like I'm going to talk with a YouTuber who reviews video game soundtracks, or I'm going to talk to get feedback from and like pull inspiration from different Final Fantasies. So it's really interesting to just see that new page. And so having him do like the music for Final Fantasy 16, like they have the most stacked like team working on this game that, and I know not everybody will like certain people. Devil May Cry 5's combat probably wasn't for them. Final Fantasy 14's story probably wasn't for them. But all of the things that Yoshi P's directing the game, like if you don't know who Yoshi P is, you can't have the deep respect that I have for Yoshi P, who's like a man like they had to delay Endwalker, the most recent Final Fantasy 14 expansion, and he did a live letter. So he does like these probably like once a month, once every other month, live letters with the community where he just starts up a Twitch stream, has a translator, and just talks to the community about what's going on with the game,
Gotcha.
happening. And so he had a live letter and essentially broke down in tears because he felt like he was letting the fans down by having to delay Final Fantasy 14 and Walker. And
And
so
I know
like
like the community of like the Final Fantasy like creators and developers, they do get very emotional about their work and like the loyalty to their fans when it comes to making games. So like I get that completely.
so
I'm watching the gameplay of Starfield right now, and yeah, you I can see the Fallout inside of it. Also see a little bit of Smash Bros. And also like with the jetpack. It's really interesting. You get like some space fighting also inside of it. Not to take away like from the Final Fantasy, like I'm gonna bring it back to that, but it seems like the fans who get as emotionally driven as you just did talking about Final Fantasy 16 and 14 are the same kind of people who get very emotionally driven when it comes to the Fallout and Bethesda. But like just like it just doesn't hit you the same way. It seems
right.
like
I've given it
uh
its fair shot. Like I bought Fallout 4 the day it came out, played probably 30 hours of Fallout 4. Skyrim,
sorry,
me and
that's the last thing I want. That's the last thing I want to talk to you about because like that was something that really got to me. But go ahead. I want that.
for me,
You said something in a podcast a while back, but like yeah, I want to get back into that like after you finish your thought.
oh yeah, so for me like Skyrim going back and Fallout 76 didn't look like it was for me at all, and like Fallout 76 wasn't for the Fallout community. Like even the Fallout
I
community has
heard.
kind of turned on Fallout. Well, they before Fallout 76 came out, they were like, "This is not what we want," and just because you're gonna put it out and it's gonna be there doesn't mean we're gonna support it. And
Exactly.
Skyrim, going back to high school, I remember Skyrim came out, and I rented it from Redbox on PS3. And so I take the game, I go to the CVS down the road, I get the disc from the red box, I get home, put it in my PS3, start it up, get it updated, all of that good stuff. Start playing it. Start having a lot of bugs just pretty much right out the gate. Like the PS3 version of Skyrim is notoriously like the worst version of that game. But I didn't have a 360 at the time. I didn't have a PC that could run it. I had my PS3. And so it gets progressively buggier and buggier and buggier and like
Yeah,
as
I
I'm
think
playing.
Assassin's Creed was the same way too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean a lot of third-party games on the PS3. Like I didn't know it at the time. Like I had a
Yeah.
PSP and was a real like a fan of the PSP, and that's what made me get a PS3. And
You
so
strike me as a PSP kind of guy.
yeah, well I
Yeah.
was Nintendo hardcore for a really
Yeah.
long time, and then PSP, PS3 era PlayStation kind of brought me into the fold, and then PS4 era PlayStation was kind of like PlayStation's going crazy and like leveling up in a lot of ways, and that was when I started podcasting and really started getting more into the content creation side of gaming and
Gotcha.
doing more of that. And then now PS5 is like I'm established. PlayStation like is established on like the new PlayStation that they've built. Like I miss weird PlayStation. I miss PSP, PS3 weird. You just get some real obscure but really good games.
I think that was just like the era of like PlayStation just playing around with stuff. To be honest with you, like I do
Yeah.
miss that era too. You did get like a lot of weird games. I think that's how Beautiful Joe came to be. Just like a lot of just randomness
Well,
just being
Beautiful
happening there. Like
Joe
yeah,
with Platinum Games that was around the all these Japanese names floating around in my head. I want to say
do you speak
Igarashi.
Japanese?
No, I don't speak Japanese. It's just like I understand katakana somewhat. Like there are certain words that I know in Japanese. Like I wouldn't say that I know Japanese, but I'm a weeb, so certain things like watching anime, playing Japanese games for decades, like certain things rub off on you.
I get you.
And so like katakana can be used to have the pronunciation and stuff, and so like when pronouncing Japanese names I try and not butcher it by using katakana, but because I have my base in katakana sometimes I butcher it in way worse ways.
Sounds like a lot. Sounds like a struggle with yourself when it comes to this culture, man.
I mean,
You're very endowed in that.
well, yeah, I mean it's just a culture like before growing up, before I realized what anime was, I was into anime. Before I realized what games were Japanese, I was into Japanese games. Before I
Yeah.
realized like what movies would have been considered anime, like I was into anime
You
movies.
were
So
into it. It seems like a lot of us from the 90s and 80s are exactly the product of that for sure.
right, it was like kung fu movies a generation before. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah,
just like
you're absolutely correct.
it's
Yeah.
something that like wasn't of our culture, but like
We
shaped
took
a lot
part.
of our culture that came after its initial release. Like I'd say modern streetwear and like hip hop and like a lot of different things that are like considered black culture currently are strongly influenced from the animes of 10 years ago in Japanese culture. And like we take it
And
and we
I'll
interpret.
say the black nerd culture. I'll definitely say that. I'll say that's fair. In the
Yeah.
black nerd culture for sure. Yeah. It's definitely
Because,
taken from the Japanese culture.
right. And that's the thing. Like, if you know what an otaku is, you probably are one. And so,
That's how that. It used to be the same way for otaku. If you knew what otaku was, you are one. So, yeah, no, I hear that. There was one last thing I wanted to chat with you though before we jet out of here. It's you guys said something on your podcast like a few weeks ago, and this shit's been in my head ever since. You guys talked about a 20-hour cap for getting a like it's not enough time to get a feel for a game. What is that all about?
uh, do you remember what game we were talking about
I
specifically?
think I think it was Monster Hunter. Like it was either Monster Hunter or some game you guys were talking about in relation towards Monster Hunter. But you guys you guys kind of like said like in general, like 20 hours is not enough time to get a feel for a game. Like you guys said, like I think it was you actually who said it. 20 hours is not enough time to get a feel for a game. Like what is that all about? Like not like 20 hours, not enough time like to get a good feel for a game. Like is that just like a you guys group personal kind of thing? Like that thing in the gaming culture that
Well,
20 hours not enough time?
well, certain games. I'll say that's not like a general rule. And if I
Okay.
said it, it was probably in relation to a specific game. Like I could see Monster Hunter, like with especially the more if you're trying to get into Monster Hunter World, by the time you're 20 hours in, there's so much you still don't understand that, and like Final Fantasy 14, even like 20 hours in, like I'm 1,000 hours in, and there's still stuff that I'm learning and figuring out and understanding how to do. So but at the same time, Field Chronicles is a Square Enix game that just released a demo on pretty much all platforms, and I played it on PS5. And I played the first 3 hours of that game. The demo lets you get about 3 hours in. I played to the end of the demo, and in my opinion, it's not a day one buy for me, but I got enough of a vibe from the game that it'll probably be on a Black Friday sale or something like that, and I'll probably get it then and enjoy it because they gave me the first 3 hours, and in the first hour and a half, I was like, yeah, like I'd play this game. Like I'd go out and buy the full game. Maybe not full price, maybe not day one because the fall is just kind of stacked. Like we got God of War coming out this year. We got
I mean, it's hard to compete with that. I don't care what anybody says. Like that, like God of War is like the unbeat game, and Demon Slayer is unbeat anime. So like, no, I hear you. I hear you.
right. So when we get like we have huge juggernauts like Call of Duty Modern Warfare the 2, like the reboot of the Modern Warfare, the second one's coming out, pulling a lot from the original Modern Warfare 2, which is one of my favorite shooters of all time. Like, this kind of can't. As Field Chronicles, the first game in the series from Square Enix as a tactical RPG, like, you're kind of outclassed here. But I respect, like, you put out a demo at a good time where people got to try it out and get the name, like, association. And some people, the demo will be enough to sell them on it day one. But for me, like, it sold me on the game. It's just not a fall
The day
2022 because
one.
fall 2022, like, every minute and every dollar is just worth exponentially more just because of how much stuff. Like, we were going to talk about anime, and we got Chainsaw Man, Mob Psycho 100 season 3, My
Yeah.
Hero Academia season 6, Spy Family
Six
Part
or seven.
2, Bleach,
Mm-hmm.
Thousand Year Blood War arc, like, and all of
That's been
those.
hyped. And a new Full Metal Alchemist coming out too. Yeah.
I haven't seen the Full Metal stuff. I'm
Oh
looking through
yeah.
the.
They did.
I'm
They
looking.
think they were just posted about it from the creator.
Okay, well, and so that might be further out. Then that might not be this fall. But like every just looking at Chainsaw Man, Mob Psycho, My Hero Academia, Spy Family, and Bleach, that's about an hour and a half a week of just anime. And so working 40 hours a week, and then
And your time is really thin.
right, and like sleeping X amount of hours a week, and X amount of hours a week I spend commuting back and forth to work. Like this
and
fall,
you're
like
newlywed, so you
yeah,
gotta give your wife attention too. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's been part of
Ooh,
the time budget for years at this point. Like that's just kind of
I
one of
like how
the
you worded that.
yeah. I mean, you got Field Chronicles doesn't fit into the budget this fall. The same in the financial budget, in the time budget. Like, sure, I could probably afford the game, but why would I buy the game at full price now, not have time to play it, and then the game go on sale before I even had time to play the game that I paid full price for? So, yeah, I don't argue that 20 hours is required to understand every game. There are a lot of games. Stray is 5 hours. I played 30 minutes of Stray. I knew that Stray is not necessarily for me. I see the appeal of it, but like I gotta pick and choose what I
Yeah.
invest my time into because time is money. And so,
I just wrote that down in my journal here. Like next time we have a conversation, which hopefully is gonna be next week Saturday. I want to ask you, how do you pick and choose your games and your anime? You don't have to answer it right now, but I definitely like I think that that's a big conversation for us to have, like how you pick and choose your games, how you pick and choose your anime, and like how does like those passes and PlayStation Plus and the betas, how all that adds into it. Because I really want to hear you go through that. But again, you don't have to answer it right now because I really want to have like the conversation for next time we talk.
yeah, we've
But this
already
is
been going over an hour. I don't want to take up your whole day.
I got a I got a busy day. I gotta go and meet a cosplayer at Battle and Brew. Hopefully my wife is gonna show up. Hopefully like the company I work for is gonna show up as well, take some photographs. So hopefully you gotta get a view of that. I got a lot of editing. I got a blurry news. That's what the light is for. I gotta record that. And then I got a slam Warner Brothers Discovery today. So there you go. Gotta get
And
on
you
that
got to
train.
download. So, last question for
Whatever.
you: Do what is the most modern game system you have access to right now?
Um the modern game system I have right now. My PC.
Your PC?
Yeah, is
Do you have Steam on your PC?
no, I don't. I should probably get that.
Yeah, get
I
Steam
won't
and
play
try and
any games on my
download
PC. Give me a good PC controller to get, and I'll get it, and I'll get Steam. I give you
any
that promise.
any Xbox, any PlayStation controller. Any Xbox controller sold Xbox One, you can get them on sale at Walmart for like 10 to 20 bucks. Any Xbox controller, any
It'll
PlayStation
work on a
controller.
Mac.
Most likely. Uh that's the thing is Multiverse is on Mac
Yeah,
cuz that's the game I really want to get your
I
opinion
know.
on.
I I seen it in action. It looks gorgeous. It like I've been hyping up like the way it looks. I've been talking about putting milestone characters attached to it because like it looks gorgeous. Like it looks seamless as hell, man.
Yeah, I've enjoyed what I've played of it. I just want to see like I said earlier,
But
Batman's part of your brand. Like This is a fighting game that has Batman. Like, I need to know. I
And
need the inside scoop.
not just Batman, but like well, Wonder Woman and Superman are attached to this, man. Like I
Yeah.
want to, ooh, I
I'm a
gotta.
Garnet Harley Quinn main, but, you know. And LeBron James.
No, I mean LeBron James. There you go. I mean, it's like he can reprise his role like as himself inside this game, but
Well,
still, yeah,
the voice actor. So actually, Rusty Rupee's podcast, one of the other
yeah.
podcasts that like we're friends with, and I really need to get you to talk to some of the Rusty guys because
I'm
uh,
in.
one of their members, Deontay, who's a huge DC fan, they Barrett in Final Fantasy VII Remake, the voice actor John Eric Bentley, they've had on the Rusty Rupees podcast, and like they refer to him as Uncle John, and he's actually the voice actor for LeBron in Multiverses. So
Okay.
you're getting a better performance from an actual like trained voice actor
Good voice actor.
than LeBron, and like
Dude,
you have more of his time, more like effort, and so like, yeah, it would have been cool to have LeBron voice act, but I feel like John is probably doing a better job of like being a video game character, at being a video game voice actor. So,
I hear that. He does do it justice. I'm not gonna lie to it. He does like the character justice. I've heard like the voice work. The voice is like it's primo. It really like you wouldn't know it wasn't LeBron James like doing the voice acting. So it's really good work.
all right.
But yeah, man, this is the show. This is it. Definitely gotta like if we're gonna make this a thing, we gotta come up with a name for it for sure.
All right. I'll
All right,
start brainstorming. I gotta just several running notes in my phone, and so I'll add that to the things that we gotta get. Like maybe FTO slice of cheese or something like that.
hey, see, I like that. See, that's good. That's good. Like you just let's just call it a slice of cheese, man. That's it.
Well, we
That's
had the
beautiful.
extra slice on Cheesy Controller podcast for a while, and so we may or may not bring that back. But I'll think of something. I'll hit you if you like that. I'll hit you with one way better within the next week.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm in. I can't wait. This is gonna be a fun little partnership going on here. Like I can't wait to keep on doing stuff like this, to show the world. We may even make it Twitch. Who knows? Maybe we go to the Twitch world sometime soon. But this is fun. Anton, man, thanks for doing this. I really hope to keep doing this on in the future. This has been D of FT Nerd Talk. And until next time, take it easy.
Keep it cheesy.